I never thought I'd find myself in this situation. I always considered myself a good husband, someone who tried to make my wife, Jessica, happy. We've been married for 6 years, and like any couple, we had our ups and downs. But overall, I thought we had a solid marriage. That is until the morning she took off her wedding ring before heading to work. It wasn't the first time she had done something like that, but this time felt different. I remember standing in the kitchen, pouring myself a cup of coffee when I noticed Jessica's bare finger. Just a few hours earlier, we had been laughing over breakfast, and now I felt a knot twist in my stomach. She said it was just for comfort, that the ring was uncomfortable while working in her new office. I wanted to believe her, but deep down, I felt a flicker of something unsettling. The first real signs of trouble appeared a few weeks later. Jessica started coming home later than usual, claiming she was caught up with work. I tried to be supportive, but my gut told me something was off. The subtle changes in her demeanor were hard to ignore. She was more irritable, less affectionate, and began closing herself off emotionally. It was like I was living with a stranger, and that made my heart ache. One evening, I decided to surprise her with dinner, her favorite pasta dish and a bottle of wine. I thought we could reconnect, maybe talk about the issues we were having. As I was setting the table, my phone buzzed. It was a text from my buddy Alex. He mentioned seeing Jessica at a local bar the previous weekend, looking cozy with another guy. I laughed it off, thinking he was mistaken. But the laughter quickly faded when I realized I hadn't seen her that weekend at all. That evening, Jessica arrived home an hour late. Her excuse was the typical work meeting ran long spiel. But the moment she walked in, I could smell a hint of perfume that wasn't hers. It was floral and sweet, distinctly different from her usual scent. I tried to brush it off, but the suspicion festered within me, gnawing at my mind like a relentless parasite. A few days later, it happened. While Jessica was in the shower, I saw her phone light up on the kitchen counter. It was a message from a contact named Mike. I shouldn't have, but curiosity got the better of me. I picked it up and opened it. My heart sank. The message read, "Can't wait to see you tonight. I miss you, babe." I could barely breathe. My world shattered in an instant. I confronted her that night, adrenaline pumping through my veins. I had to know the truth. I couldn't sit back and pretend anymore. "Jessica, who is Mike?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Her reaction was immediate. She froze, her eyes wide, her face pale. The guilt was evident, but she quickly shifted into damage control mode. "He's just a coworker, it's nothing," she exclaimed, her voice rising defensively. I could see the panic in her eyes, but I was not buying it. I pressed her further, demanding honesty. Seeing her squirm only fueled my anger. "I saw the text, Jess. You're cheating on me." I shouted, feeling a mix of rage and disbelief. Her excuses started pouring out. "I was just being friendly, you're overreacting." But none of her words mattered. They felt like hollow echoes of her betrayal. In that moment, I was hit with a rush of emotions: anger, hurt, disbelief, and finally an aching sadness. I had trusted her, shared my life with her, and here she was, lying right to my face. The reality of her betrayal crushed me, and I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, teetering between despair and the urge to throw it all away. The days that followed were a blur. I went through a tormenting cycle of emotions. Anger would morph into deep sorrow, and then spiral back into rage. I was a mess, constantly questioning every moment we had shared together. I felt like a fool for not seeing the signs earlier. The laughter we had shared now felt tainted, poisoned by her deceit. After a week filled with sleepless nights and relentless torment in my mind, I knew I had to make a decision. I couldn't continue living under the same roof as someone who had shattered my trust. The thought of her with another man made my stomach churn. I needed to take control of my life, to reclaim my peace of mind. In that moment of clarity, I resolved to confront the situation head-on, not just for myself, but to send a message. Jessica needed to understand the gravity of her betrayal, and I was determined to make her feel the weight of her actions. I would come up with a plan, a way to reveal her infidelity that would leave a lasting impression. As I began to outline my plan, I could feel the gears turning in my mind. I was not just going to confront her again. I wanted her to understand the pain she had caused. I wanted her to see the repercussions of her actions, and I was more than willing to take the necessary steps to ensure that she did. It was time to take the next step, to put my plan into action and show Jessica the consequences of her choices. I would not let her walk away unscathed. As I lay in bed that night, I could only think about how far I had fallen, but I was also ready to rise again, stronger than before. I spent the next couple of days in a haze, plotting out my revenge. I wanted to expose Jessica for what she truly was, and I needed to gather evidence that would leave no doubt in her mind about the depths of her betrayal. I began to adopt a calm demeanor around her, playing the role of the oblivious husband while my heart raced at the thought of what I was about to do. My first step was to gather more information about this guy, Mike. I started tracking Jessica's movements, noting when she left for work and when she returned home. I'd keep my distance, pretending to be occupied with mundane tasks while my mind raced with thoughts of the betrayal. I also enlisted the help of my friend Alex, who had already seen her with Mike at the bar. He was more than willing to help me dig deeper into this mess. One afternoon, while Jessica was at work, I decided to go through her things, something I had never considered doing before. I felt a wave of guilt wash over me, but I pushed it aside. I had to know the truth. I started with her purse, rifling through it until I found what I was looking for, her phone. My heart raced as I pulled it out and quickly unlocked it using the code she had always used. I had memorized it long ago, a small piece of intimacy that now felt like a tool for my revenge. Scrolling through her messages, I found several more from Mike, plans for dinner, inside jokes, even flirty photos that made my skin crawl. The messages were explicit, filled with innuendos that made my stomach turn. It was clear that their relationship was more than just a fling. They were emotionally involved. Each message was like a dagger twisting deeper into my heart. Then I stumbled upon a photo of them together, smiling as if they were the happiest couple in the world. I felt the heat rise in my chest, anger threatening to spill over. I saved the photo, knowing it would serve as a crucial piece of evidence in my plan. I needed Jessica to see what she had thrown away for a cheap thrill. That evening, when Jessica came home, I feigned normalcy. I greeted her with a smile, but it felt like a mask over a face of rage. I could tell she sensed something was off. She asked if I was okay, and I shrugged it off, saying I was just tired. I was determined not to let her see the storm brewing inside me. I decided the best way to execute my plan was to confront her in a controlled manner. No shouting, no chaos. I wanted her to sit down and listen, to fully grasp the severity of her actions. I had everything I needed, and I was ready to lay it all out. The next day, I told her I wanted to have a serious conversation. I could see her face drop slightly, a flicker of fear crossing her eyes. I knew she was probably rehearsing her excuses in her head, but I was ready. I had framed my confrontation carefully, so there would be no room for her to wiggle out of it. "Jess, we need to talk about our relationship," I said, my voice steady as we sat across from each other at the dining table. "I found something on your phone, and I think we need to address it." She looked at me, confusion etched across her face. "What do you mean? What did you find?" I took a breath, the anger bubbling beneath the surface. "I found messages from Mike. You know, the guy you've been seeing behind my back." Her eyes widened, and for a brief moment I thought I saw genuine fear. "That's not what you think. He's just a friend." She insisted, but I wasn't having it. I pulled out my phone and displayed the saved messages, the explicit photos, and that infuriating picture of them together. The room fell silent as she scanned through the evidence, her face growing pale. I could see the realization hit her like a tidal wave. Her mouth opened and closed as she struggled to find words, but nothing came out. I was struck by the mix of emotions on her face: shock, fear, and a hint of guilt. "Jessica, how could you do this?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "You've betrayed everything we built together. Do you even care about us?" She looked down, her hands trembling. I didn't mean for it to happen like this. I was just feeling lost, and Mike was there for me, but it didn't mean anything. Not mean anything." I interrupted, my voice rising. "You're telling me that you shared your body and your time with another man, and it meant nothing?" "That's bullshit, Jessica." I could see the tears forming in her eyes, but I didn't want to comfort her. She had made her choice and now she had to face the consequences. You need to understand how much you've hurt me. This isn't just a mistake, it's a complete betrayal of trust. She started to cry, pleading for forgiveness, saying she still loved me, but her words felt empty. I had watched her lie, watched as she threw our marriage away for someone else. I felt like I was drowning in a whirlwind of emotions, anger, betrayal, heartbreak, and I couldn't let her manipulate me into feeling sorry for her. I need time to think, I said finally, standing up. I can't just forgive you because you're crying. Trust is broken and it doesn't just come back overnight. That night, I moved into the spare room. It felt like a small victory to claim my space, but it also felt like a defeat in the grand scheme of things. I never envisioned my marriage ending up like this. I wanted to believe that we could work through it, but the road ahead felt long and painful. As I lay there staring at the ceiling, I felt a strange mix of clarity and confusion. I had confronted her, exposed her, and yet I was still mired in the emotional fallout. I had to think about what I wanted, how I wanted to move forward. The anger was still there, simmering beneath the surface, but I knew I would need more than just rage to make a decision about our future. The next step was crucial, not just for me but for her too. I had to figure out how to take control of my life again, and while the idea of revenge felt intoxicating, I had to ensure that I didn't lose myself in the process. I couldn't let her define who I was or how I would respond to this betrayal. It was time to think clearly and decide what I really wanted from this mess. The days dragged on after my confrontation with Jessica, each one feeling longer than the last. I was living in a haze, alternating between moments of anger and despair. Every time I saw her, her face twisted into a mask of regret and sadness. I felt the weight of our shared history pressing down on me. It was a constant reminder of what she had done, and despite her tears and pleas, I struggled to see a future for us. The first weekend after the confrontation was the hardest. I had decided to keep my distance, spending time with friends to help clear my head. Alex was my confidant during this time. He listened to my rants, offered advice, and provided the kind of support I desperately needed. Over a few beers, I recounted every detail of Jessica's betrayal, from the moment I saw her without her ring to that gut-wrenching confrontation. "You need to think about what you want, man," Alex said one evening as we sat on my back porch, surrounded by the warm glow of string lights. "Do you really want to fight for this? Or is it time to cut your losses and move on?" His words echoed in my mind. I had never considered the idea of leaving Jessica until this moment. I always believed in the sanctity of marriage, in fighting for love and commitment. But how could I fight for someone who had so easily tossed our vows aside? The thought of her with Mike made my stomach churn, and I couldn't help but feel that every loving moment we had shared was now tainted by her deception. I spent the next few days deep in thought, writing in a journal to organize my feelings. I poured out my heart onto the pages, detailing the pain, betrayal, and sadness I felt. I also wrote about the good times, our shared dreams, and the love we had once nurtured. It was a therapeutic process, but I still felt lost. The question loomed over me, should I give our marriage another chance? One night after a particularly exhausting day, Jessica approached me while I was sitting in the living room. She looked fragile, her eyes red and puffy from crying. "Can we talk?" she asked tentatively, her voice barely above a whisper. I hesitated, torn between the urge to tell her to leave me alone and the curiosity of what she had to say. "Fine," I replied, gesturing to the empty space beside me. She sat down, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," she began, her voice trembling. "I know I messed up and I can't take back what happened, but I want to make things right. I love you and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to fix this." There was a sincerity in her eyes that I hadn't seen before, but I couldn't ignore the part of me that shouted, "How can you say that after what you did?" I took a deep breath, trying to keep my emotions in check. "Jessica, you need to understand that love isn't enough. You shattered my trust. You went behind my back with another man, and that's not something I can just forget." "I know," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I've been awful, and I don't expect you to forgive me right away. But I want to go to therapy to work on our relationship. I want to understand why I did what I did and how I can make it up to you. The idea of therapy intrigued me, but I was also skeptical. Could talking to a stranger really fix this? I had always believed that relationships required effort, communication, and commitment. But could rebuilding trust be a possibility? I needed to be sure that I wouldn't be wasting my time, or worse, opening my heart to more pain. Why did you do it, Jess? I asked, my voice softening slightly. What drove you to betray me like that? She sighed, running her fingers through her hair, a gesture I had seen her do when she was anxious. I felt lost and alone. I was unhappy with my job and everything felt overwhelming. I didn't talk to you about it, I just shut down. Mike was there and he made me feel special, even if it was temporary. She paused, looking at me with desperation. But it meant nothing. I want to be with you. You're my husband and I love you. I felt the conflicting emotions swirl within me again. Part of me wanted to believe her, to think that she truly understood the gravity of her actions. But another part of me was terrified of falling back into the same patterns. I had never been one to easily forgive, and I worried about the toll this entire experience had taken on my heart and mind. I need time to think, I said, attempting to keep my voice steady. I can't just jump back into things because you say you want to make it work. Trust is built over time, and right now I don't know if I can trust you again. Please, she begged, her voice cracking. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I'll go to therapy, I'll be open and honest. Just give me a chance to prove that I can change. I nodded slowly, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on me. It was a monumental choice, one that could alter the course of my life. I needed to consider whether I could genuinely move past this betrayal, or if I would always be haunted by her infidelity. As I reflected on our conversation, something inside me began to shift. Maybe it was worth exploring this possibility, not just as a way to potentially salvage our marriage, but also as a means of understanding myself. Why had I clung so tightly to the idea of love and loyalty? Did I fear being alone more than I feared the betrayal? I decided that I would give therapy a chance, not just for Jessica but for myself as well. I needed to understand my feelings, to break down the walls I had built around my heart. It was a step into the unknown, but I felt that it was necessary to navigate through this turmoil. Over the following weeks, we began attending couples therapy. It was uncomfortable at first. Sitting in a room with a stranger discussing our deepest issues felt exposed. But slowly, I found solace in the process. With the therapist's guidance, we started to peel away the layers of hurt and confusion. Jessica began to open up about her insecurities and struggles, and I realized that there were parts of her I had overlooked in the chaos of our lives. I still felt the sting of betrayal, but I could also see the glimmer of hope in her eyes, a desire to rekindle what we had lost. We worked on communication, learning to express our feelings without fear of judgment. It was a slow and arduous journey, but I found myself reflecting on my own role in our marriage. I became more aware of my shortcomings, understanding that I too had contributed to the emotional distance that had led Jessica to seek solace elsewhere. As the sessions continued, I began to feel a subtle shift in my heart. I was still cautious, still wrestling with the pain of her betrayal, but I also started to see the potential for healing. It was a fragile hope, but a hope nonetheless. I had been consumed by anger and bitterness, but now I felt a spark of compassion growing within me. Yet, even as we progressed, the specter of Mike loomed over us. I couldn't shake the feeling that the ghost of her affair still lingered, casting a shadow over our rebuilding efforts. I knew that for us to move forward, we would need to confront that past directly. I decided I needed closure, not just for myself, but for our relationship. I had to confront the man who had come between us. It was a daunting thought, but I felt it was the final step I needed to take before fully committing to this path of healing with Jessica. Jess, I think I need to meet Mike, I said one night after a therapy session, my heart racing at the thought. I want to confront him, to understand what happened from his perspective. It's the only way I can truly let go of this. She looked at me, a mixture of fear and concern dancing in her eyes. Are you sure that's what you want to do? It could get messy. What if he reacts violently? I know it's risky, but I need to do this for me, to reclaim my power and to close this chapter of our lives. If we're going to move forward, I can't have this hanging over us. She sighed, nodding slowly. I understand, just be careful, okay? I didn't know what to expect when I finally decided to confront Mike, but I knew it was a necessary step in my journey. As I prepared for this confrontation, I felt a mix of apprehension and anticipation. Would it bring me the closure I so desperately sought, or would it open old wounds that I wasn't ready to face? Only time would tell whether this was the final push I needed to move forward or if it would lead to new complications. But I knew one thing for sure. I was ready to take control of my life again, one way or another. The day of the confrontation loomed closer, and with it came a of emotions. I felt a mix of dread and determination swirling inside me. I had spoken with Jessica about my plan to meet Mike, and while she had expressed concern, she ultimately respected my decision. It was a pivotal moment for both of us, a test of my commitment to reclaiming my life and the strength of our relationship moving forward. I arranged to meet Mike at a local coffee shop, a neutral ground where the stakes felt slightly lower. As the time approached, I could feel my heart racing. I had rehearsed what I would say in my mind, but I knew that once the conversation started, anything could happen. Would he be defensive? Would he try to downplay his role in the affair? Or was he going to be remorseful? When I walked into the coffee shop, I spotted him right away. He was sitting at a corner table, casually scrolling through his phone. I felt a rush of anger at the sight of him, and for a moment I hesitated. But I quickly reminded myself why I was here. I had a purpose, and I wasn't going to back down. Taking a deep breath, I approached his table, and he looked up, surprise flickering across his features when he recognized me. "Hey, you're Jessica's husband, right?" he said, a hint of cockiness in his tone. "Yeah, we need to talk," I replied, my voice steady but firm. I took a seat across from him, locking eyes with him. I wasn't going to let him intimidate me. "Sure, what's up?" He leaned back in his chair, a slight smirk still on his face, as if he didn't take the gravity of the situation seriously. It only fueled my anger further. "You know why I'm here," I started, my tone growing sharper. "You had an affair with my wife, and I want to know why. What did you think you were doing?" He shrugged, dismissing my anger with a casual wave of his hand. "Look, man, it wasn't supposed to happen. We were just having fun. Jessica was feeling down, and I just happened to be there." "Fun?" I echoed incredulously. "You think cheating on someone is fun? You were a willing participant in this. Don't try to play the victim." Somewhere in my mind, I had expected him to back off or show remorse, but instead he leaned closer to me, a flicker of irritation crossing his face. "Look, it's not like she was unhappy with you. She never mentioned any problems until after. If you want to blame someone, blame her." His words hit hard, and I felt a surge of frustration. "You think this is about blaming her? This is about accountability. You could have chosen to walk away to respect our marriage, but you didn't. You jumped right in." "Okay, I get it," he replied, rolling his eyes like I was just another angry husband. "But you need to understand, she's an adult. She made her own choices. I didn't force her into anything." I could feel my blood boiling, but I had to keep control of my emotions. "You're right, she is an adult, but you were supposed to be the decent one. Do you even care how this has affected her, how it's affected me?" "Well, it's not like I'm going to lose sleep over it," he said, crossing his arms. "You're her husband, not mine. What's the point of this conversation? Are you going to threaten me or something?" I took a moment to regain my composure, realizing I was getting nowhere with him. "I'm not here to threaten you. I want you to understand the pain you've caused. Do you have any idea what it feels like to find out that the person you love has betrayed you, to watch your world crumble because of someone else's choices?" For the first time, I saw a flicker of discomfort on his face. "Look, I didn't mean to hurt you, but Jessica and we had a connection. She was vulnerable, and I was there." "Complicated, complicated," I scoffed, shaking my head. "You're trying to justify your actions because it was easy for you. You think that makes it any less wrong. It doesn't matter what connection you thought you had. You took advantage of her when she was in a vulnerable state, and that's cowardly." He finally seemed to lose some of his bravado. "Okay, maybe I was wrong, but you have to understand that she didn't come to me out of nowhere. She was unhappy before I ever came into the picture." That statement hit me like a punch to the gut. I had known that Jessica was struggling, but hearing Mike say it made me realize there were deeper issues at play, issues I had neglected to address. I felt a wave of guilt wash over me, mixed with the anger still simmering beneath the surface. Maybe, I admitted reluctantly, but it doesn't excuse what you did. You could have been a better man, but you chose to betray someone else's trust. You don't get to shift the blame onto her. He shrugged, clearly uninterested in my moral high ground. Look, man, if you want to stay mad at me, that's your choice. I'm not going to apologize for something that was between you and her. She's the one who came to me. I leaned in, my voice lowering. You might not care about the fallout, but I do. I'm here to reclaim my life and my marriage, and I won't let you be a part of it anymore. So if you really cared about her, you'd back off and let us figure this out without you in the picture. The tension hung heavy in the air, and for the first time, Mike seemed to understand the seriousness of my words. He didn't respond, and I took the opportunity to stand up, my resolve strengthened. You need to stay away from Jessica. Don't contact her again, and if you do, I'll make sure you hear from me. With that, I turned and walked away, leaving him at the coffee shop, a mixture of emotions swirling inside me. I felt empowered for standing my ground, but I also felt a deep sadness for the state of my marriage. The confrontation had been cathartic. I had confronted the source of my pain head-on. I walked out of that coffee shop feeling lighter, but the reality of the situation still weighed heavily on my heart. I knew there would be more work to do, more healing to initiate, but I felt a renewed sense of purpose. When I returned home, Jessica was waiting for me, her eyes anxious as she searched my face for signs of what had happened during the meeting. "How did it go?" she asked, her voice tinged with nervousness. "It was what I expected," I replied, my tone flat. "He doesn't see it the way we do. He's just a coward who took advantage of your vulnerabilities." Her face fell, and I could see the guilt written all over her expression. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I never wanted you to go through this. I should have been stronger." I reached out to her, still feeling the sting of betrayal but willing to acknowledge the path we were on. "I know you're sorry, but we need to focus on our healing. We can't change the past, but we can work on the future." As we hugged, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this was a turning point for us. Although the road ahead remained uncertain, I was committed to putting in the hard work. Together, we could navigate the choppy waters of our marriage, taking each step with care and intention. With each passing day, I recognized that healing was not just about overcoming betrayal. It was about understanding ourselves and each other better. I had no idea how long it would take, but for the first time since discovering the affair, I felt that possibility was on the horizon. It was a long journey, but I was ready to embark on it step by step. The days turned into weeks, and the process of healing was anything but linear. Jessica and I continued our therapy sessions, facing the uncomfortable truths about our relationship. We learned to communicate better, sharing our feelings without the fear of judgment or retaliation. It was exhausting work, but I could feel the cracks in our relationship slowly starting to mend. Despite the progress we were making, the shadow of Jessica's affair still loomed large. I found myself grappling with trust issues, often questioning her where she was going or who she was with, even when there was no reason to doubt her. It was a constant battle between wanting to believe in her and the fear that she might betray me again. One evening after dinner, I noticed Jessica was acting a bit off. She was distracted, her phone buzzing on the table as she tried to engage in conversation with me. I tried to push the thoughts aside, reminding myself that we were working on this together, but I still felt that nagging voice in my head whispering the worst. "Hey, is everything okay?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light. She looked up, a hint of guilt creeping into her expression. "Yeah, sorry, it's just work stuff. I'm a bit overwhelmed with deadlines." "Do you want to talk about it?" I offered, wanting to support her. She hesitated for a moment before shaking her head. "No, it's fine. I just need to finish up some things later." The conversation felt stilted, and I could sense the tension creeping back in. I had worked hard to create an environment where we could talk openly, but now it felt like we were slipping back into old habits. I couldn't help but wonder if she was still hiding something. Later that night, after she had gone to bed, I found myself unable to sleep. My mind raced with thoughts of Jessica and her phone. I tried to resist the urge to check it, knowing that going down that road would only hurt me more. But the temptation proved too strong. I convinced myself that I was doing it for the sake of our relationship, to ensure she was being honest. As quietly as I could, I crept into the living room and grabbed her phone from the counter. My heart raced as I unlocked it and scrolled through her messages. The first few were harmless, work-related conversations, chats with friends. But then I stumbled upon a message from Mike, sent just a few days earlier. "Hey, I miss you, let's grab a drink soon." My heart dropped and a wave of betrayal washed over me. How could she? I felt the familiar anger bubbling up, hotter and more intense than before. I quickly put the phone back down, my hands shaking. I didn't want to confront her yet. I wanted to gather my thoughts first. But one thing was clear. Whatever progress we had made felt like it was crumbling before my eyes. The next morning I confronted Jessica over breakfast. I needed answers. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady but laced with tension. She looked up, her eyes widening in fear. "What about?" "I saw a message from Mike on your phone last night. You told me you were done with him. What the hell is going on?" For a moment her face went pale and I could see the panic set in. I didn't mean for you to find that. I thought I told him to leave me alone." "Clearly, you didn't," I snapped, feeling the anger boiling beneath the surface. "You said you wanted to work on us, yet you're still communicating with him. What do you expect me to think?" Tears welled in her eyes as she struggled to find her words. "I didn't want to hurt you more. I thought if I just cut him off without explaining it would be easier, but I didn't handle it well. I'm so sorry." "Sorry doesn't cut it, Jess," I shouted, feeling the hurt and anger seep back in. "This is a pattern. You're not being honest with me, and I can't keep doing this if you're still holding on to him." She broke down, her shoulders shaking with sobs. "I know I messed up. Please, I need you to believe me. I want to be with you. I swear it's over. Mike doesn't mean anything to me. I just didn't know how to handle it." "Then why didn't you tell me?" I asked, my voice steadier now. "Why keep the communication going?" "Because I was scared. I thought I could handle it myself." "I didn't want to hurt you again," she pleaded. Desperation etched into her face. I took a deep breath, trying to rein in my own emotions. I needed to find clarity in the chaos. "Jessica, this is exactly why trust is so hard to rebuild. You're still hiding things from me. If you want to fix this, you need to be open. No more secrets, no more lies." She nodded, wiping her tears away as her composure slowly returned. "I promise I'll cut ties for good. I'll text him right now and tell him to leave me alone." I watched as she took her phone and began typing, her fingers trembling. I felt a mix of relief and skepticism. It was a step in the right direction, but I knew it would take more than one message to heal the wounds we had inflicted on each other. Once she was done, she put her phone down and turned to me, her eyes searching mine. "I want to be transparent with you. I'll do whatever it takes to earn your trust back." The words sounded sincere, but a part of me remained guarded. I couldn't deny that I still loved her, but the fear of being hurt again was overwhelming. "I want to believe you, Jess, but it's going to take time. I need time to process everything." "I understand," she said softly. "I'm willing to wait. I know I've messed up, and I'll do everything I can to make things right." For the first time in days, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe we could still salvage our marriage, but it would require vigilance from both of us. As the days went by, I watched closely, hoping to see genuine efforts on her part to rebuild our trust. The therapy sessions also continued, and I found myself opening up more than I had in a long time. I started to express my fears, the weight of betrayal that still lingered, and the uncertainty of our future. It was cathartic to share my feelings, and I could see Jessica responding with empathy. During one session, I broke down, admitting how scared I was to let her back into my heart completely. "I still love her, but I'm terrified of being hurt again," I confessed, my voice shaking. "I can't just forget what happened." Our therapist guided us through that revelation, encouraging us to acknowledge the pain while also allowing space for healing. Jessica listened intently, her eyes never leaving mine, and I could see genuine remorse etched on her face. As the weeks turned into months, we found ourselves slowly rebuilding our lives together. Jessica cut off all communication with Mike, and I started to regain some semblance of trust. It felt like we were starting from scratch, but the process of rebuilding also brought us closer in unexpected ways. We began to find joy in the little things again, cooking together, going for walks, and sharing laughs. Healing wasn't a straight path. We still had our moments of doubt and conflict, but there was also a new sense of commitment that seemed to anchor us. One evening, as we sat together on the couch, Jessica reached for my hand. "I want you to know how much I appreciate you sticking by me through all of this," she said softly. "I know I've put you through hell, and I'm so grateful that you're giving us a chance." I looked at her, feeling a warmth in my chest. "It hasn't been easy, but I can see you're trying, and I want to make this work too." With every passing day, I realized that healing was not just about moving on from the past. It was about growing stronger together. We had faced the darkness, and while the scars of betrayal would always remain, they didn't have to define us. I knew there would be challenges ahead, but as I held Jessica's hand, I felt an undeniable sense of hope. We were still navigating the aftermath of her choices, but through our commitment, honesty, and vulnerability, I believed we could find our way back to each other. We were still in it together, and for now, that was enough. The months continued to pass, each one bringing its own set of challenges and victories. As Jessica and I worked through our issues together, it became evident that healing was not just a destination, it was a continuous journey. We had learned to communicate openly, prioritizing honesty and vulnerability in our relationship, and I felt grateful for the progress we had made. However, as time went on, I was still haunted by the memories of Jessica's betrayal. I often found myself reflecting on how quickly our lives had changed, the stark contrast between the love we once shared and the chaos that had ensued. While I was committed to moving forward, there were days when the shadow of her affair crept back in, and I felt the familiar pang of insecurity. One evening, as we prepared dinner together, I noticed that Jessica seemed distant. She was chopping vegetables, but her mind appeared to be elsewhere. I tried to brush it off, focusing on the meal we were preparing, but the worry nagged at me. "Hey, is everything okay?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light. She looked up startled and then nodded quickly. "Yeah, I'm fine, just a little tired from work, I guess." I could see right through her facade. "You've been saying that a lot lately. If there's something on your mind, I want you to feel like you can talk to me." She hesitated, biting her lip as if she were weighing her options. Finally, she sighed and set down the knife. "It's just, I've been thinking a lot about everything that happened. Sometimes I feel a wave of guilt when I see you trying so hard to forgive me." I felt a rush of empathy. "Jess, we've been through a lot, and I don't want you to carry that guilt alone. We're in this together. You're not the only one who's had to deal with the consequences of your actions." "I know, but I feel like I don't deserve your forgiveness," she admitted, her voice shaking slightly. "You've been so patient with me, and I just worry that I'm still not enough." My heart ached at her admission. "Jessica, you are more than enough. You're doing the work to rebuild our relationship, and I appreciate that. But we have to be honest with ourselves and each other. It's okay to feel scared and uncertain." She nodded, tears pooling in her eyes. "Sometimes I worry that I'll never be able to fully make it up to you." I stepped closer, wrapping my arms around her. "You're making progress every day. It's not about perfection, it's about growth. And we're both in this together." As we finished cooking, I found myself reflecting on how far we'd come. We had turned a painful chapter into an opportunity for growth and understanding. I realized that the road to healing was ongoing, but it didn't mean we couldn't find joy in the journey. One Saturday, Jessica suggested we take a weekend trip to the lake, a place we had visited often before the affair. I felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. It had been a special spot for us, filled with happy memories, but the thought of revisiting it also stirred up mixed feelings. As we drove there, I focused on the scenery, trying to push aside the anxiety that threatened to bubble up. When we arrived, the sun was shining brightly and the water sparkled like diamonds. It felt like a new beginning, and I wanted to embrace that feeling. We spent the day hiking, swimming, and laughing like we used to. There were moments when I caught myself glancing at her, remembering the pain we'd endured, but I also saw the strength we'd built together. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, we settled onto a blanket by the water's edge. Jessica turned to me, her eyes reflecting the fading light. I can't believe we're here together. It feels so good to be able to enjoy this again. I nodded, feeling a warmth spread through my chest. It really does. I think we're learning to cherish these moments more than ever. As the stars began to twinkle overhead, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. I had fought through the darkness, and while the scars of betrayal would always remain, they didn't have to define our future. We were both committed to healing, and that commitment was what mattered most. In that moment, I realized that love was a choice, one that required effort and understanding. It wasn't always easy, but as long as we were willing to face our fears together, I believed we could build something stronger than we had before. As we sat by the lake, I took Jessica's hand, intertwining our fingers. I know we have a long way to go, but I'm hopeful about our future. She smiled, a genuine smile that lifted my heart. Me too. I'm ready to keep fighting for us. And as the night deepened around us, I knew that together we would navigate whatever challenges lay ahead. We had faced the storm, and now it was time to embrace the calm. No matter how long it took, we were in this together, and with each step forward, we were finding our way back to love.